Welcome to the Family Dynasty podcast, where legacy meets leadership. I'm your host, Matt Dewing, family guide, business advisor, and believer in generational purpose. Our aim is to inspire and equip you to lead your family so that together you will experience compounding wealth in all 7 capitals through the generations. Each week we uncover timeless wisdom, cultural dynamics, and practical tools to help you lead with vision, live with intentionality, and build a flourishing family that multiplies in impact. Let's get to work. The Dynasty starts now. Welcome to the Family Dynasty podcast. Today I'm joined again by 2 of my daughters, Alaina and Elli, for what may be my favorite conversation yet, a discussion about social wealth, the measure of our relationships outside the family. So much of family life rightly focuses inward, cultivating faith, health, wisdom, and a unity at home. But in this episode, we explore how flourishing families turn outward, extending hospitality, generosity, and connection to the wider world. We talk about the downfall of dynasties that closed in on themselves, neglecting the cultivation of meaningful relationships. And we talk about the strength that comes when families network courageously, asking for help when needed and giving freely whenever they can. We talk about what it means to be a generous family, one that builds bridges. Elli, with her gift for turning grand ideas into daily practice, helps us bring these concepts down to earth. She draws a fascinating parallel between diversifying a financial portfolio and diversifying our social capital, how wise families invest in people, not just projects. We share historical examples of families who either failed or flourished in this area, and why the difference often came down to their willingness to serve and connect beyond their own circle. And as we discuss, something beautiful emerges, the picture of what happens when generous families come together. Sparks fly, fireworks happen, because social wealth isn't just about having friends. It's about being a blessing to others together as a family. So let's dive in. This is Social Wealth, Generosity Beyond the Family. Well, welcome to the Family Dynasty podcast. This is our episode as we continue to march through the 7 capitals of wealth. Today, we're looking at the 6th capital, social wealth. And I'm joined again by my lovely daughters, Alaina and Elli. I'm going to give you guys just a chance to catch us up on what's going on in life. But let's talk a little bit about social wealth. Let's define it. So what do we mean by social wealth as the 6th capital? It is the compounding value of relationships, networks, reputations, and trust built over time with those outside of the family. Mm-hmm. So when we think, kind of how we have framed this is our understanding of what it means to be a human. And as humans, we have 4 relationships. Our primary relationship with God, and then ourselves, then others, and then the rest of creation. And in framing these 7 capitals of wealth, we kind of put them in that order: spiritual first, and then when we put health second, it's like our health is very much our relationship with ourselves, and in our relationship with God. Then we take it to relationships. In our rubric of the 7 capitals of wealth, we're saying relationships primarily deals with the relationships inside of family, right? Because those are more primary, right? When we really calculate the measure of our life, most of our relational work is done in family. And our relational work outside of family is super important. And it is very important for a dynastic family, a family with dynastic intent. And so we make the differentiation between our social wealth, those relationships we have outside of the family, versus our relational wealth, really meaning the relational wealth we have inside of family. Mm-hmm. And so here we are focusing on, social wealth, the compounding value of relationships, networks, reputations, and trust with others built over time. So a question we want to tackle is, what would change if your family saw relationships, not just friendships, but as a form of wealth that could multiply across generations? What if our family saw relationships, not just as friendships, but as a form of wealth that we could see compound over time. But before we do that, again, if I'm listening to a podcast, I want to know who are the people I'm speaking with. And Alaina, you're my oldest daughter. You've been joining these podcasts. It's just so much fun doing this with you and hearing your insights. Same as you, Elli. Where are you at in life right now? What's going on? What's top of mind for you this morning as we're doing this?
All sorts of things.
Where do I start?
It's good busy season. Farming, managing a wedding venue, running a household, raising a toddler.
You got back from vacation?
Just got back from vacation.
Yeah, you're a little tan. Had a fun time down in St. Simon Island.
In Georgia. So that was a fun little break from things. But life is good.
Wonderful. Yeah. So mom is down watching Andrew right now and Clover.
And Clover, yes.
and you're expecting?
Yep.
In a few months?
December. Yep. Okay. More than halfway there now.
All right. Life is good.
Yeah, life is good.
Wonderful. How about you, Elli?
Basically, I feel like my life is ruled by Clover at this point. Whatever she wants to do, I just take care of her. Yeah. I'm kind of obsessed with sleep. That's pretty much the biggest thing going on. But she has been sleeping better these last couple days at least. So we'll see how long that lasts.
How old's Clover now?
She is 7.5 weeks.
Not even 2 months.
No.
Yeah.
No,
and look how radiant you are. Elli, you're smiling. You're out of the house at 7 weeks.
Yeah, it's fun now. She makes me laugh. She's funny. But yeah, she pretty much rules what I do. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, it's my delight as your father and their grandfather to see you embracing the role of motherhood. That's great. We're going to be doing a podcast with Trudy coming up on mothers, or matriarchs, mothers, and maidens, and just the role women have, and the important role women have in a dynasty. And from my perspective, just embracing your role in every season, right? So you move through the season of maidens into motherhood on your way that you will someday be the matriarchs of the family. Yep. Pretty cool. Okay, so what's one short story about a relationship or a connection that changed your life? This would be outside of family. Now you guys really didn't do athletics so much. I was going to say a coach, mentor, a teacher. You were homeschooled. Is there? I'm giving you time to think and process.
Well, the first example that popped to my mind when we were going through the list of networking is when I was changing my cattle herd from Dexter's to lowlines. And I wanted to do this high intensity grazing thing. And so I was like, you know what? Instead of just looking for cows online to buy, I'm going to contact as many breeders within a 3-4 hour driving distance as I can. I said, I wasn't asking to buy cows. I was like, can I come see your herd, see how you run your facility? And so I was out there networking, making contacts.
That's great.
Talking to the farmers, and through that, none of these farmers had cows listed for sale. I ended up buying my initial herd from 3 of the farmers. After just going there, they're like, oh, you're a young person interested in farming. I'd love to help you. I'll give you a deal on some heifers I've got. I could sell you 1 or 2. So that networking got me started.
Sure. You went into it really with a relational focus. You weren't thinking in terms of, I want to build relational wealth here, but that's what you were doing. You were saying, I want to build some social wealth. You were networking with other farmers who could help you become a better farmer. And in the process, they just wanted to help you. You were looking to build a relationship, and they wanted to reciprocate that.
They were excited. Someone young is interested in what I'm doing. Let me help you get started.
Yeah.
So
it's a great example.
They gave me good deals and gave me their information. Some of these people have been farming for years and years and years, and they gave me their wealth of information on what worked and didn't work for them. And
Yeah, the one thing, as entrepreneurs are building a business, one of the challenges that they have is an entrepreneur finds themselves working in their business so much that they have a hard time coming up for air, looking at their business and working on their business, which is really what they need to do if they want to scale and grow their business. And I think we can get caught in that with our families too. we can get, there's so much to do. There's so much, and we need to pour ourselves into our family that we forget how important it is to build relationships and networks outside of the family. And I think that's a great example, right? You're not only family, but farming. Yeah. I'm farming. There's a lot to do when you're a farmer. Yeah. And yet you said, you know what? I can spend some of my time that's devoted to work building relationships, and how that paid off for you.
Yeah.
That's great. Great example. How about you, Ellie?
I'm kind of blanking for me right now, but I was just thinking of something that was really cool for my husband, Trey, when he was working at the post office, and this was soon before we got engaged. He was just working part-time, but his dad knew someone at the post office, and this person who worked as a postal master at a different location said to Trey's dad, "Oh, have Trey give me a call. Like I know of some different opportunities that he might help him out," because he knew Trey was just part-time. So Trey called him, and he was able to help him get a really great job as like a full-time postal carrier with a really good route, because he kind of knew like the inside scoop of what was going on. And that was an amazing change for Trey and helped us like with our financial journey, and just was a really good position for him to get. So that's kind of a cool example of how a connection that someone in his family had was able to really shape and change our lives for a few years.
Yeah, that's a great example. It reminds me, and this is an important phrase that I want to bring up in this podcast, and we've all heard it. It's not so important what you know, but who you know.
Yeah.
And there are just so many examples of just having the right connection at the right time that is the key to the next stage of life, even more than the skills you had developed or the knowledge that you had at that point. It's just building trust, gaining a rapport with somebody who's willing to give you a chance that ends up building your skills. And
and if your family has like a good name, a good standing in the community, having those relationships, like, oh, You're related to the Doings? That's such a good family. Yeah, I'll recommend you for this job, or I'll give you a good word. So like having a good reputation as a family.
Absolutely.
That definitely helps your social wealth.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that's great. Our scripture verse that we want to think about when we're thinking about is amassing social wealth something scriptural? Is it something really we should be doing? The verse that Jesus spoke in Luke 16:9, he said, "Make friends for yourselves with unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, you may be received into eternal dwellings." There Jesus is telling us it's actually good. Use your wealth to make friends. Use your wealth in ways that will build you a social network. Right? This is something that is actually commended in Scripture. So why does it matter? Well, social capital is a bridge builder between other forms of wealth. It's kind of this bridge builder between having finances and being able to impact the world with them. In what ways is it a bridge builder?
I mean, the more people you know, the more connections you have, and resources you have access to. So if you have those resources, you might know someone else who has a better ability to put those resources to work, or can give you access to more than you yourself might have access to.
Yeah, that's great.
Just like a company isn't always, sometimes there's exceptions, but a company isn't always run on one person. You need a network of a team to work to get the best impact.
It can be easy for a family with dynastic intent to be so focused on building their family that they're missing the importance to be a sustainable, not only a sustainable dynasty, but a dynasty that really multiplies its influence and impact. That it is essential to have that kind of social wealth where other people can, like if you're out there and, you know, I've heard this quote that it's, you know, we talked about, it's not so important what you know, but who you know. It's even more important who knows you.
Yeah.
Right? So that if you're in the marketplace and somebody else is asking about you or your reputation, if you're known, You say, oh yeah, I've known. Could you imagine if you were trying to do a business deal and someone you're trying to do a business deal was checking up on you from some of their sources to see if anyone knew about you, and one of his sources said, I know him. I've done business with him before. He
Right.
can be trusted.
Yeah.
He's a man of his word. Right. That's
Gives
going
you
to.
a sense of credibility.
Yeah, I actually had that happen. My attorney, who, my business attorney is about 4 hours away, and he was doing a transaction that involved someone he thought I might know. And so he told the, this was an acquirer in this case, he said to the attorney, do you know anybody who might know this entity that I'm trying to acquire? My attorney asked me, I happen to know the people, and I was able to give my attorney a reference that he gave back to the acquiring party. So I mean, this is kind of the way the world works. Is your reputation is important, and you don't want it to be so insular. You really want to be building that kind of trust in society and in the marketplace.
Yeah, I feel like this is something we were talking about in the council about how important it is, like as our family businesses get to be more well known. I think it's so important that the community doesn't see us as just like an insular.
We're just sucking resources away from the community.
Exactly, and then that could give them like a very sour picture of doing business with us.
Yeah.
I think it's so important that they see us as a positive influence and having positive connections with the community.
Right. I think this is one of the reasons capitalism works so well, is even, capitalism has been derided because it favors the greedy. But even the greedy realize that if they're viewed by society as greedy, it's not going to be good for them. So even if they have a greedy heart, they're going to do those things to manage their reputation.
Right.
How much better it is if a family not just does it to manage reputation, but does it because they just realize, wait, what else are we doing this for? What else are we have a moral responsibility before God to steward financial wealth, but what's the purpose of it? For the blessing of the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like doing that with a genuine heart will be seen.
Yes.
Ultimately.
That's right. Yeah. I think to some degree, I think there's always going to be, and you see it in today's age, there's a segment of society that villainizes anybody with money and every family with money.
Yeah.
And they will not give any family the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You could have the greatest motives in the world. And I think this is one of the things, honestly, that keeps families from, I think, following what I believe is a moral obligation to steward financial wealth, is because, I don't want to be looked upon by others in my community as greedy.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, it's like the example of the servants who were given the talents. The one just buried it. He's like, I've given this wealth. I don't know what his intentions were, but maybe I don't want people to see me with this wealth. I don't want
It
to,
could have been.
maybe I don't want to mess it up. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to bury it, not deal with it.
Yeah.
Instead of like taking it and investing in the community, building it for giving it back to your master or the end reward or
That's right.
whatever.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, we also see this when we're thinking about a biblical precedent. We think about Paul and his missionary journeys. Think about how he developed a network of churches and his relationship with them, and how he encouraged them to encourage one another. Right? It's just,
And they also provided encouragement to him.
Yes.
He said like how much encouragement and joy they brought to him.
That's right.
In return as well.
Yeah. The true Christian life is not meant to be lived on an island or in isolation. It is a life where we need mutual encouragement. We need to be built up by one another. And there are times in life where, there's, can you imagine if there is a network of families with dynastic intent, and you're going to have some families that are killing it, thriving, just really doing well, and other families maybe going through a challenging time. Can you imagine with that connection and social wealth of how those families that are really doing well can strengthen the families who are struggling at a certain time? And we don't know. Any family really doesn't know when in time, no matter how well they're doing at this point, it doesn't guarantee that the next decade is going to be, money being printed.
Yeah.
Even if it is a season where it is right now. So I think it's just so important from so many angles to build this social wealth. How about, what are some strategies for building social wealth? How do we go about it? How do we think about it?
I think a very practical strategy could be hospitality, having people into your home, inviting people over to get to know them.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's work, especially at your stage, right, with young kids, but no, it's a great strategy. We should be hospitable people. inviting them to our space.
I just thought of kind of an example. So there's this really lovely young lady who goes to my church, and when she started going there recently, like a year ago, I introduced myself to her, and like we're about the same age, so I asked her if we wanted to go out and get coffee sometime and get to know each other. And that was a really nice time, and we've kind of just gotten to know each other throughout the year. And then she had a baby a couple months before me, and when I had Clover, I was going through something that I knew she had also gone through with her birth, so I was able to reach out to her, and she really provided me like a lot of support and tips, and like she brought us a meal, which was so generous. And I just love how making a connection like that, she can help me like when I needed help down the road, and we can be supports for each other.
Yeah, there was a mutual encouragement there. And,
But when I got to know her, like that wasn't the goal. It was just
Sure.
just meeting somebody new. But it's really cool to see how that can grow as time goes on.
Yeah.
There you go. And I think there's another practical example of take the initiative. Take the initiative and network. For some of us, I'm not a natural, I'm very relational. I love building relationships. But if you put me in a networking situation, for whatever reason, my brain says that's self-serving. I'm not going to go out and just, be that very bold networker. It just doesn't come as natural to me. So I need to stir myself up, because networking is important. We do need to, build nobody knows what a Rolodex is anymore. Right? Build the contact
I know
list.
what it is, but
Nobody has one. Build that contact list. And
And I feel like in the beginning, sometimes that can be uncomfortable, meeting someone new or introducing yourself or asking somebody over. But I think it can just be so beautiful relationally, not to mention the social wealth that also can bring.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Kate, your sister Kate, we were talking to, just the challenge she was having recently doing some networking. And, then she did some initiation. She initiated some conversations, and that's hard.
yeah, putting yourself out there is vulnerable and scary sometimes.
Yeah. But then you realize that's exactly what I wanted someone to do for me. I wanted someone to initiate with me. And so when I initiate with someone else, I'm giving them a gift.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's kind of similar to when you ask for help, like in the situation where I was looking for support from my friend from church, I feel like that was almost a gift to her too, because she was like, I have this knowledge, I have this, I want to give it to someone, and that was offering her an opportunity where she could minister that to me, which was a blessing to me, and I think she was so happy to be able to give that.
I'm catching it.
It is very rewarding to be able to share your knowledge in a beneficial way to someone else. Like, oh, I have this, and I'm able to like gift it to them to help them out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so distilling that into a practical thing we can do is honestly be courageous to ask for help.
Yeah.
We, as Americans, if I can't do it myself, I certainly don't want to admit that to anyone else. But it's actually a beautiful thing that can build relationships, isn't it? When you're in a position and you need help, just be honest and ask someone else, are you willing to help me?
Yeah. And just a funny little note, I feel like everyone just goes to Google. Oh, what do I do about this? Try to find someone. You'll probably get better information than from online or whatever.
And then you also get the empathy.
You get to build on a relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. We want to think about social wealth as something that can be compounded, just like money. can earn interest and be compounded over time, social wealth also can be compounded. We encourage families to sit down and take inventory. Like, what is the measure of your social wealth? Can you write down, think about people in different spheres. You know, you can think about the obvious ones. We would say, who do we know that is in local politics, state politics, national politics? Can we, do we know some of those influential people by name? Do we have their cell phone numbers? In business, right? At the local chamber of commerce, who do you know that's in your town that are influential in business? How about in the faith community? Who do you know? And so, and then if you do that as an individual, you might be surprised at kind of the social wealth that you have. And now, if you do that as an exercise with each person in the family, you've heard the 6 degrees of separation, right? That we're only 6 people away from knowing everyone in the world. And think about it, within family, there are relationships that you have that I don't have. Same with you, Alaina, you have relationships I don't have. I have relationships you don't have. So that we can rely on one another's networks within the family that just compounds each of our relational network.
Yeah, like a big spider web. It's all connected somehow between each individual person.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Reach is broad.
Yeah, so we encourage families to do an exercise where you actually take an inventory of what the family's social wealth is, measure it to whatever degree you can, and then maybe set some goals about who else do we want to know? What spheres do we want to expand our social wealth in? And it could be, for truly dynastic families with means, it could be funding the arts, it could be funding science, it could be in philanthropic causes where those who are being funded know it's your family and you're developing relationships, not just sending a check. For families with less means, it can be more direct relationships and smaller funding directly to
volunteering your time.
Volunteering, absolutely. Volunteering with different civic groups and getting to know people that way. What else?
Other strategies?
Yeah.
For
Is there
social
anything
wealth?
else we can think of, or we've kind of beat that up pretty good, huh?
Something that I thought was important was being generous with your social wealth. So if you have people in your circle who you think would benefit from knowing each other or a connection for an opportunity, then being generous in helping create or facilitate that connection.
Oh, that has helped me so many times. And when I get a chance to sit down with someone who I really respect, someone who kind of is out further than I am in life, one of the questions I like to ask is, who do you know that I should know? Right? And that's, I don't use it as a test of their generosity, but generally people are. People are generous with, you know what, do you know so-and-so? Knowing about you, you would really love to connect with so-and-so. And there's been times with whoever I'm getting to know and interviewing and, just establishing more rapport with, who they connect me with sometimes becomes, a more meaningful connection to me even than the person.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, from our standpoint of how can we look for opportunities to serve others by being generous with our network to help other people out.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of similar to financial wealth, it's easy to see how you can be generous with that, but it's important to be generous with the other forms of wealth too. And that's one way you can be generous with social wealth.
Make
That's
those
great.
Connections, yeah. I like the point, cultivate multi-generational relationships, grandparents, children, grandchildren, mentors.
Yeah.
I feel like our family's pretty good at that. Like we're very multi-generational. I mean, from grandma and grandpa down 4 generations, we're all very involved, working together. Grandma and grandpa have shared so much knowledge with us that having those close relationships where we work together, spend time together, learn from each other, that's really helped with kind of our social wealth within the family. And then even outside the family, how our church is very multi-generational, all together, learning together. Everyone looks up to Uncle Russell and Aunt Ruth in the church for their vast amounts of knowledge and life experience and things.
Yeah, and I think even outside of the family, encouraging multi-generational relationships and mentorships, even with people outside of the family.
That's right. It reminds me, one of the goals for my last phase of life here, right? I'm in my 50s, and as I hopefully have a lot of life left, but the vision for my life is that I get to travel with my grandchildren. Your children, at times, I hope, have a chance to travel with me to meet other generous people. In my work here at Family Dynasty, a big part of what drives me is I want to help generous-hearted people flourish and succeed to a greater degree than they already are. And in that process, just to be blessed by the relationship with them. And that my grandchildren, so this intergenerational thing, not that I want to skip you guys, right? We'll include you too, but that my grandchildren would have a chance to see other families and see just how God has blessed them, how they are being generous, and catch the vision from seeing other stories, and that their grandpa has a relationship with some of these other people, and that I'm inviting my grandchildren into that relationship as well. All right, so to me, that's a vision of social wealth that I want to bring our family. And honestly, when we decided to do the process with Sean and Trudy, it was just one of the aspects that made us, we were hungry for this next step, and they had a service that really benefited us. But also in the back of my mind, there was this thought of, you know what, there's a network there. There's a network there that is going to be part of the Doing Family's social wealth. And so in coming on board and being a partner now in Family Dynasty, it is helping not only for the Doing Family, but we want to facilitate that for other families. We want to facilitate that social wealth through the connections that people make through our network here at Family Dynasty.
I feel like with social wealth, there is a large scale, which is what I hear you sometimes talking about, like large business opportunities, people who have connections here and there.
Right, to your congressman.
Exactly. So I feel like there is that large scale, which to me, in my personal life, I'm like, I don't see where that's really practical.
Doesn't compute.
Yeah.
I want my girlfriend who can help me with my baby who's crying at night.
Right. So I feel like even looking at it in different tiers can be helpful.
Yeah.
When I think of it, I think of like taking someone a meal who needs it, or maintaining my friendships, checking in on them, and inviting people over to my house, meeting new people, etc., which is a much smaller scale. But I feel that for each person, it's going to look different.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are in life.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, I think there's a difference between social wealth, which is the relationships that benefit us, then there's some amount of relational charity that will happen from family too, right? And helping other people out that can never return a favor to us, I think should be an important aspect of every family's goal. Every family's life should be, how do we be, you're talking about being generous relationally. That's one thing we need to be, relationally generous with those who will never bless and help us. So we don't want to lose sight of that as we're talking about social wealth. But I think when we're talking about social wealth, we're really talking about those kind of relationships that add value to the family. And I think the broader and more healthy a network that you have for those relationships that add value, it's just that principle, the more generous you're going to be able to be.
Yeah. And I think you want relationships that are mutually beneficial. Like we're benefiting their family, they're benefiting our family.
Absolutely.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there relationships that are not beneficial though? How do you judge that? Is that right to judge that? Or should you just reach out and build a relationship, no strings attached?
I could list a handful of relationships that are not beneficial to me that I'm going to continue to have. Yes.
Okay.
It's probably good to have both. Some that are, especially as a family, some that are in service, and then some that are.
Yeah, I want to come back to what you said, but what I'm thinking, Ellie, you're saying, because what I wonder if you're saying is those relationships that give me nothing in return, that are actually hard for me, they're good for me. Right. They're good for me.
Right.
And is that what you're getting
And
at?
I'm kind of cautioning against incentivizing building certain relationships just because you see where the benefit to you is
That's
going
smart.
to be.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. And this is where I think what Alaina said is so important. They need to be mutually beneficial relationships. If you are in society building relationships with the eye of, oh, that's somebody rich and powerful, I need a relationship there so they can benefit from me. Mm-hmm. That's so skin deep. And people will know that you're that kind of taking family.
Right.
And you're not going to have those relationships.
Yeah, they want to be friends. Oh, they want to get on your good side just because they know I have resources and I can help them. Like
That's right.
that leaves a bad taste.
Exactly.
So no one's going to want to be your friend if you get that reputation.
Yes. And I do think, so I think this may be what you're getting at too. If you want, and we're going to give a couple examples, an example of the Medici family in Florence, Italy, and the way that they really established a lot of goodwill is they funded the arts. They funded different aspects of society. They were a wealthy family, but they used their wealth relationally. It was an outflow of who they were. Mm-hmm. And I know, part of my business success, I remember someone who I respected years into it said, Matt, you have a tremendous amount of goodwill in this community, right? Because as I built the business, it was always, interaction after interaction. People knew that the advice I gave them was not to take advantage of them for my business, but that I was there to serve them and give them. And that happened over and over to where communications, and there was this web that happened through the community where people knew that I was not a taker, I was a giver. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's the kind of reputation a family needs to really set out to have, is right. If you want to build a wonderful social network, you need to be a family that gives first.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And seeks to bless other families. And I always love the Zig Ziglar quote, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will eventually get what you want. Mm-hmm. If we approach life as a family, that our social wealth really comes from how do we bless other people. Mm-hmm. It does come back to us. But I love the caution. I love what you're saying, Ellie. Yeah, if you're only out there, and some people come to mind, right? I'm sure you've felt it. It's an icky feeling, like, oh, what are they up to?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about what are the risks of neglecting social wealth. Let's jump into a story here. Here is a historical story of the Habsburg family. Now, you probably heard of that. They were very wealthy dynasty in Europe. Let me just read a little bit about when social isolation led to the collapse of a dynasty. The Habsburg dynasty was one of Europe's most powerful ruling houses for centuries, stretching from Spain to Austria. They controlled vast wealth, land, and armies. Yet their downfall shows what happens when social wealth is neglected. Instead of building broad relational networks, the Habsburgs tried to preserve power almost exclusively through insular marriages within their own family line. Their motto was telling, "Let others wage war, you, happy Austria, marry." For generations, they relied on marriage alliances to keep their empire intact. But these alliances were narrow and transactional. There we go, transactional. Mm-hmm. This is what we want to avoid as families, is trying to think we can build any kind of social wealth in a transactional manner. As a result, the Habsburgs gained short-term political ties, but failed to invest in wider, enduring social goodwill among the people, neighboring nobles, and rising middle classes. Their social capital deficit showed up in two devastating ways. First was weak legitimacy among their subjects. In Spain, resentment built against the ruling Habsburg line, seen as foreign, aloof, and disconnected from everyday people. Revolts and unrest became common, in part because the dynasty lacked deep social roots. The second is the collapse of the line. Generations of intermarriage weakened their physical health, famously leading to the Habsburg jaw and widespread infertility. By 1700, Charles II of Spain, the last Habsburg king there, died childless. Despite controlling immense financial and political capital, the dynasty's isolationist strategy meant it had no social resilience. The Spanish Habsburg line ended, and Europe plunged into the War of Spanish Succession. The Habsburgs remind us that financial and political wealth without social wealth is fragile. Families who wall themselves off, whether through pride, fear, or insularity, may enjoy strength in one generation, but leave nothing sustainable for the next. The Habsburgs show us that when families neglect the broader networks of trust and relationships, their legacy crumbles. Social wealth is not optional. It's the glue that holds dynasties together across the centuries.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. That's like an example of the transactional, what benefited them networking, where they neglected what would have benefited them in the long run, generationally.
Right.
Which, yeah.
It was just like what, they said there was a couple marriages that were narrow and transactional. Like that was what benefited them maybe then in the moment, but maybe they weren't thinking further.
That's right.
Or broader.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know enough about the story. I don't know what were the motivations. Was it pride? Was it thinking that they were too big to fail? They could never fail, or
that they were better than others to have those connections.
Yeah.
They were higher above them.
Yeah.
right? Pride. Was it fear? They were afraid of, tainting their bloodlines, and so
Or
they
losing.
became
what
so
they had.
insular. Yeah.
Right. Like if they brought someone else in, they would just be coming in to steal their riches.
Yeah, right. So I think these are important things that as a dynasty we need to guard against. We need to guard against fear that, when you play defense and neglect to play offense, you prepare to lose, right? We need to avoid being fearful. We need to avoid becoming insular, and we can't let pride rule the day, or greed. Right? I think these are some of the motivators that could lead a family to neglect social wealth. So here's a contrasting story. This is a great story from history of how a family valued social wealth. This is the Medici family of Florence, and how social wealth really was a big part of their dynastic power. In Renaissance Florence, the Medici family rose from relatively modest beginnings to become one of the most powerful dynasties in Europe. At first, their financial capital came from banking. But what transformed their legacy was not just money, it was their social wealth. The Medicis mastered the art of network building. They cultivated friendship with artists, scholars, church leaders, and politicians. Cosimo de' Medici invested heavily in patronage, not only funding art and architecture, but also supporting emerging thinkers and leaders. By doing so, he wasn't just spending money, he was compounding social wealth. Every artist he lifted up, every priest he supported, every merchant he helped, they became allies and advocates for the Medici family. Their social network extended across generations. When Lorenzo de' Medici, who was called Lorenzo the Magnificent, took leadership, the family had already embedded themselves so deeply into Florence society that they were virtually untouchable. Their wealth of relationships and reputation allowed them to survive political attacks, rival families, and even papal opposition. The Medici legacy wasn't just that they were rich, it was that they had woven themselves into the social fabric of Florence and beyond. Generations later, Medici descendants married into European royal houses and even became popes. Their social wealth gave them leverage and resilience that money alone could never buy. I love that. Leverage and resilience that money alone can never buy is social wealth. So here's some dynastic lessons for today from the Medici family. This story shows that financial capital without social wealth fades quickly. But when a family invests relationally, there's that term, invest, you give. When you invest, you're not guaranteed a return, right? But invest
Or
relationally.
sometimes if there is a return, you in your generation might not see it.
Exactly. Plant trees.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought.
Connecting across spheres of influence, they create a legacy that extends beyond their lifespan.
Yeah.
The Medicis remind us that compounding social wealth across generations may open doors for our grandchildren that we could never imagine today.
You know what this story makes me think of? When you're thinking of financial wealth, you hear that you're supposed to diversify your assets or whatever. You should have real estate et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But I feel this shows that you should have diversity in your social wealth
Yes.
as well. They had connections with church leaders, politicians, artists, so
Scholars.
all over the place. And
Yeah, where the previous example didn't seem to have that. They didn't make relationships with like the common people, with the people they were ruling over. They just had relationships among themselves and maybe some higher up people, you know, those connections that benefited them, but not diverse.
Yeah.
That's great. Great insights, girls. Love it. So let's talk about some vision casting. You want to discuss this question, or should it just be a rhetorical question for our audience? What might your family's civic, business, or ministry impact look like if your descendants inherited 5 to 10 generations of strong networks?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I feel like a much broader reach.
Yeah.
I feel like that would provide for our kids, grandkids, etc., when they have a dream of what they want to do in their future. They can have such a wealth of people who can help them with that, who can give them guidance to get there.
That's right. Yeah, and when I think of, again, my vision of my grandchildren knowing generous people, my driving force isn't so much that these other generous people give my grandchildren an opportunity. It's that my grandchildren see in action what a generous life does, how happy a generous life is, that they themselves and their internal beings say, that kind of lifestyle is attractive. I want to form my inner world that I am also a generous person.
Yeah, and that's true riches.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? And like we said, it just happens. It's just the way life happens. When generous people hang out with other generous people, sparks happen, right? Fireworks happen. It's just kind of the way God, I think, has wired the world for the most magnificent things to get done is when generous people rub shoulders, because it's generosity that is truly the fuel and the catalyst for good things to happen. Dream together. What doors could open if your family's reputation, trust, and goodwill were stewarded like an inheritance? What if we stewarded like an inheritance? Our reputation, trust, and goodwill.
This makes me think of something. When I was a kid, I remember we would go so many places, and when I would meet people or I would hear people talking, even from a kid, I felt that everyone would say they knew my grandparents. Like, oh yeah, I know Andy and Sally. And I remember as a really young kid saying to mom, or maybe to you, like, wow, Grandma and Grandpa know everybody. Like, how do they know so many people? And I remember you or mom saying, yeah, if anything bad ever happened to them, like, so many people would be there to help them. And I was probably 9 or 10, and I remember asking Grandma, I said, Mom and Dad told me that if anything bad happened to you, you'd have lots of people. Is that true? And Grandma's like, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah,
and then
They've been there to help so many people.
Right, yeah. And I know that we had that conversation before they had their fire. And when I was a kid, I remember thinking back to that conversation and being like, wow, so many people are here helping them.
Yeah.
And that was true.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It moved from theoretical to tangible, right? When their house burned down, and the community just like rallied like that to come around them.
Yeah. And people be like, doing, you know, Andy and Sally? Like, yeah, they're my grandparents. You'd never hear a bad thing. It's like, oh, and they'd have to say something nice about Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah. Well, and I can picture the look on your grandpa, my dad's face. And I've heard him say this numerous times. He said, it seems anywhere I go, someone knows either Matt or Nate. And Joel, you know, Joel tends to work in New York State, so maybe he's not as well known here in this part of Pennsylvania. But it's just, you can see that social wealth, that because Nate and I are regarded well, that they automatically look with goodwill upon that. And it brings him a lot of pleasure to know that there's a reputation that's out there. Yeah. Cool.
So pass that on generationally. you're given that good standing in the community, that good name. How can we preserve it?
Yeah.
How can we keep it?
Yeah, and I always, in these kind of conversations, I always think, and I have a specific example in mind, maybe you've known families that the reputation is what it is, and it's for the most part good, but you've seen some shady things in the family, and they're more concerned with reputation management than they are the integrity of their name. And when we're talking about stewarding your reputation, it's more about stewarding what's below the waterline, stewarding the heart and soul of your family and how you show up in society. Not the fact that, hey, we'll do whatever we want in society, and when something goes awry, we'll go into reputation management and we'll call on, an attorney to get us out of this mess, and we'll call the press and make sure it's spun this way, right? You see that all too often in society where the good name has to be manufactured, because if you don't go into damage control mode, your reputation will be made. And that is a sad reality, and that's not at all what we're talking about in managing reputation. We're talking about coming clean if you need to come clean, not trying to hide things, but guarding your reputation in the sense that you show up with integrity, you show up with altruism, you show up with a heart to give and serve.
Yeah.
I have kind of a funny story.
Okay.
About family reputation. So my father-in-law has a couple brothers who were known for being kind of crazy when they were younger.
Right.
So at my last job that I had, I introduced myself as my last name. And some of the ladies that worked there were like, "Oh my goodness, you are too nice of a girl to have that last name." I don't believe it. But they were thinking of my father-in-law's brothers, not my husband's immediate family. But it's just funny to me that how a last name can really affect how people first perceive you.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, no, that's very true. But one of the best ways to build and compound social wealth is to surround your family with other like-minded families. And that's what we're trying to do here at Family Dynasty, is develop a network of families who are supporting, encouraging, challenging one another in their dynastic pursuits. Okay, girls, this has been a great discussion. Thank you for joining me again. I'll close with this thought. Social wealth is the compounding influence of trusted relationships. Don't just count your friends, cultivate your network for generations. We'll be teeing up next time the seventh and last of the Capitals of Wealth, Societal Impact, where it all culminates. So join us again
All right.
for that next conversation.
Looking forward to it.
The last
God
one.
bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Family Dynasty podcast, where legacy is built, not just inherited. If today's episode helped you lead your family with greater vision or purpose, share it with someone else who's building a legacy that lasts. And remember, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant. Deuteronomy 8:18. Keep building with faith, leading with love, and living for impact. Your family is your greatest calling.